Welcome to Knit Pickers PEI. I'm Margaret, and my studio is located about 5 kilometers south of the north shore of Prince Edward Island, close to Cavendish Beach. Today I want to share with you an incredibly easy way to cast on for toe-up socks. It's the Turkish cast on, and it is so simple and so easy, you're absolutely going to love it. So, shall we get started? So the Turkish cast on is a form of a provisional cast on. Now you can do this Turkish cast on or provisional cast on using double pointed needles, using circular needles, or in this case, I'm using my Kollage square interchangeable needles. And because I'm using interchangeable needles, 2 of the tips, 1 on each needle cable, are the size that I want to knit my sock with. At the other end of each cable is a smaller size needle, and that is just going to hold onto my stitches while I'm knitting. It's easier if you use a smaller size needle on the other end of your interchangeables, just to slide your stitches back on. If you're using 2 circular needles of the same size, non-interchangeables, that works just fine as well. So to start, I'm just going to make a slip knot, pop that onto one of my circular needles, and then I want to point the tips of my circular needles to the left, and I want my slip knot to be on my top needle to the right hand side. And I just like to sort of hold the tail to hold everything in place. And then I'm going to wrap these needles the number of times I want to cast on stitches. So in this case I want to cast on 5 stitches. So I'm coming around from the back, I'm going underneath and around and over the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there I have it. So now I want to knit them. So I'm just going to turn my needles around. My wool is now back in knitting position. And you'll notice that my slip knot is now coming off my bottom needle, and it's on my left hand side. So I'm going to start knitting. So in order to start knitting, what I want to do is I'm just going to slide my bottom needle out now. Slide it on over, and that way the cable is holding the bottom half of the provisional stitches. And I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to knit across the loops held on my top needle. Now, if I were to continue knitting on this needle, as I would for my simple sock pattern, I would switch out my smaller needle tip for the same size needle that I'm working with here while I'm knitting just on that one side. If I was working a more traditional toe up, where you start knitting in the round and you start doing your increases, what I would do is I would just slide the stitches that I've just knit onto the cable section, turn my work around, and now I'm going to be knitting these stitches right here, the one with the slip knot on it. Now I don't want to get rid of the slip knot quite yet. I'm just going to leave that here for now. So I take my other needle And I'm just going to slip the slip knot. That is not going to end up being knit at all. And I'm just going to knit across these stitches. Whoop. And there we are. So I have now knit both sides of the provisional cast on. And if I was going to be carrying on and knitting back in the round again, I would just slide this needle through and bring this one back and start knitting this side again. So just to recap, what you do is you start out with both of your needle tips pointing to the left. You take your slip knot and you pop that onto your needle, and that's going to be your top needle, and the slip knot is on the right hand side. Your two needle tips are pointing to the left and wrapping from the bottom and up and around. You wrap your needles for the number of stitches you want to cast on. Then when you're ready to knit, turn your needles around so that your working wool is to the back. Your slip knot is now on your bottom left-hand needle, left-hand side of your bottom needle. Take this bottom circular needle and just slide it on so the provisional stitches are held on the cable. And you just knit the top. And depending on the pattern you're knitting, you might knit back and forth on that section a few times, or you might just knit one row. Then when you turn your work and you're knitting your bottom stitches, don't take your slip knot off yet. Just slip that slip knot on that first row off the bottom needle, knit across, and then when you get back to the slip knot on your next round, then you can take your slip knot off entirely. It's never ever knit. So here I have knit across both provisional cast on sides, and then I came back to the first row, knit across that. Now when I turn my work, I didn't get rid of my slip knot when I knit the first row off the provisional stitches, but now I can just get rid of that slip knot entirely and knit across my second needle. And you'll see how absolutely wonderful the provisional cast on is, this Turkish cast on. So let's take a close-up look here. You can see that? It is as neat and as tidy as a pin. It's absolutely a beautiful provisional cast on. So was that not the easiest cast on ever? I love it, and I hope you do too. And as always, happy knitting!